Hey guys, welcome to the Maker Vault here at RCBI Huntington, where you can join for as little as $25 a month, $40 assisted membership. Today we're coming at you with a feature about the kind of making that you can make in the community that is our Maker program. And graciously, I have not only some phenomenal example projects of how to use 3D printing and technology like Raspberry Pi microcomputers the size of a credit card to create video game emulation systems and really cool projects that you can make, play with, have fun, make for your friends, maybe even one day sell. So I'm really excited that we're joined by our longest running Maker Vault member, David Kalinoski, here at the Maker Vault today.
Thank you.
I'm so happy you could come. We got a lot of really cool stuff to check out. But I got to drive home that you all have the opportunity to join the TriState Makes Festival. Bring your own innovations, your own making to the forefront, and win one of up to $5,000 in prizes to either take your idea to the next level, or, hey, maybe you'll win a 3D printer or a membership to our Maker Vault. So, David, tell us a little bit about why you picked this as your top feature project.
Well, the Gamecube was always a great system anyway, and there wasn't really a great version of the 3D printable device out there, you know. So, it just, I wanted to go into this. One of my favorite systems in the past, along with Nintendo 64, then the Gamecube. But there aren't any emulators out there and 3D printed things for the Gamecube, so it was one of my favorite ones.
So you hit a wall kind of early saying, I've been making these little video game enclosures and things kind of as a passion, and then you've been optimizing them so that they turn out the way you want. You've been painting them and doing some remarkable finishes to some of these objects. But then you're like, well, this is a 64, I can download this and do minor modifications of it, but there wasn't anything for Gamecube. How'd you deal with that?
Well, believe it or not, there's a couple different things like that. Someone made something as small as a keychain, but it was just a very basic square that said Gamecube on it. It was purple, and the famous Gamecube was like an indigo purple blue. So I was trying to go with that.
So you took a model. Let me get this right. You took a model of the keychain and blew it up into scale. I think that says something really interesting about when you jump into this arena and you start to understand scale, it's relative. Like the 64 was not this big, right?
Right.
It was this big. And I talked about optimizing too, and this is one of these prints you decided, hey man, I want a full scale version of this.
Exactly.
Am I wrong that you had a customer ask about this?
I did. I had someone that didn't want to use they didn't want to disassemble their N64 to put a Raspberry Pi inside. They're like, can you 3D print a full-size N64 and put a Raspberry Pi in it? Mm-hmm. And they would be happy with that. So I was like, yeah, we could try that.
So one of the edges is that you had this realization that the scale of the object is not really relevant. You can adjust that.
Yeah.
And since you learned some modifications to get things to fit into places they weren't necessarily designed to fit into.
Exactly.
You modified this 3D model, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So you created, pulled this up, hollowed it, right?
Yes.
Can you talk us a little bit through that process?
I used the Tinkercad. Just, I'm not much of a real 3D modeler. However, this has got me to learn more and more. But, I just went in, used the hollow blocks, and hollowed out small parts at a time. And to try to make the faceplate, but literally cut off the faceplate and just pulled it away from it. And then so I could separately print it so it comes out easier. There are parts and pieces that I literally disassembled from it to help it print better.
Fantastic. And
none of these holes were on the side, so.
Oh, so you just invented all these holes for the grading?
All the vent holes were just
Incredible.
just a picture of vent holes, and I went through and made all those individually.
So I'm glad you brought up Tinkercad. It is a tool we've used for a long time, and it is free and open source, right? It is created by the 3D design powerhouse Autodesk.
Yes.
So although it's often looked at as a tool for kids, it is a great kind of free primitives modeling tool where you can take like hollow spheres and cubes and things like that and subtract them from objects. It works in a browser window. We love it. We've used it for years in our 3D printing camps. And if you want to join us and learn about this incredible tool on November the 30th here at RCBI Huntington, we are having a course in 3D design. Again, go to rcbi.org to learn more. We will introduce you to Tinkercad. You'll create a 3D designed project, and then we'll 3D print it. So we'll bring you up to speed where David is in order to make something that didn't exist and mod some things that do to make it work for your purposes. So I'm really interested, though, in your passion for these kinds of projects. I know there was a point in time you made a wrist top unit for the Fallout video game series.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about what gaming and making means to you?
Obviously, gaming goes into, like, once people see that in the video game, they see an item they want, they're like, how can I get that? And companies, it would take a lot of money for them to be able to manufacture that. But then the 3D printing world gives us that ability to say, if I can find someone who can 3D model the item, then I have the knowledge to go through the 3D printing part of it and figure out what works best. And sure enough, that comes hand in hand. So
that's some really entrepreneurial thing. I just want to highlight that.
Sure. And once I actually 3D printed one, then someone saw it and they're like, oh my gosh, I want one of those. And they wanted it painted and looked rusty and all that stuff. So it was a lot of fun doing that.
Oh, I can only imagine. So how are things like video gaming, whether it's cosplay, D&D, or table gaming, how are we seeing these become gateways into design? How were they a gateway to design for you?
I mean, mine was like, I'm super excited about how a Raspberry Pi can be such a little powerful device. And I started with that and figuring out what they can do. Then I had friends that were like, well, they like them too. And I would just chat with them on, whatever messenger we were using. And they got more interested and they're like, well, hey, can you make me one of those? And I'm like, well, what was your favorite game system? And they would tell me it was an Atari, and I would print Atari for them just because I could, because I wanted to. They didn't ask for the printed, they just wanted me to make a Pi that played some Atari games.
Fascinating.
So,
absolutely love it. So now we're into the entrepreneurship bent here.
Sure.
And this is how it happens. I like to call it accidental entrepreneurship. Because, you come in, you make something that's so cool. Guess what? You're not the only person who thinks it's cool. And there are other people out there who want one, or they want one of their own. May not have the manufacturing prowess or the vision that you have of, I see. There's a demand for this out there. Companies
totally
can't tool up manufacturing fast enough to keep up with it. So the demand is going unmet. While people are interested in getting their own 3D printer and running it, I know it's a little hairy. It takes some maintenance, it takes some knowledge that's just, kind of unique. Machines are getting better, but, there's a lot of learning in this field.
Absolutely there is.
So when you have that, that's a value, and you can make things of value and then fulfill a demand. And not to get too dry, but man, I still find it absolutely super, super fascinating. Yeah.
Thank you. Me too. And, it started, I literally started with this in 2015 with the Raspberry Pi 2. And there weren't any cases like this at all. Zero. And so there were just these plastic cases that came with the Raspberry Pi 2 when you ordered them, or you could order just a prefab little simple plastic thing. And just going from that to be able to, like, the 3D printing, those 3D modelers out there, and of course Thingyverse is just that introduction to people dumping every idea they've had onto this website, and you'd be able to grab it and you're like, oh, this is cool, let me modify it a little bit.
Yes.
And
so we're in the sharing economy where we're no longer like plagiarizing or stealing someone else's idea. They've put it out there on the web, and they want us to grab it, hack it, and then upload it and say, hey, this is how I changed your design. And instead of getting any flack for that, like, that's the nature of the business. Like, everybody's doing that.
They're completely okay with that.
You make a box and someone downloads your box and turns it into a different shape. They're apt to tag you and upload their modified box. And all of a sudden, in a manner similar to how people communicate on forums, these models just develop over the course of years with tons of branches and options. So fascinating that in 2015 we were at basically kind of ground zero. This is neat and cool, but this stuff wasn't out there.
Right.
And now there's more than you can shake a stick at. So here's a recognition for you. I want to highlight something cool sitting on our table that David didn't make. But he was instrumental in bringing these to RCBI. These are educational robots. They're made by a company in Ohio, and they're made with technology we have here at RCBI, laser cutting and 3D printing. So here's an actual product you can go and buy that uses 3D printed components. They're called Tiny Bots. We'll put a link either on the video or in the description for these guys. And you introduced me to these.
I just knew when I met this guy at like a little festival, and I think I was in Cincinnati. I was like, oh, this is right down Deacon's alley. This is gonna love this thing. And so I told the guy, I was like, oh, I need to get your information. So
yeah, and here you came with it, and I had a training coming up for folks who were wanting to study machining and trades training and CNC adults, right?
Yeah.
We built these robots. We ran these robots. We did challenges with these robots. Then we coded and programmed the robots to do the work on their own. And now this resource, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you, literally. This resource is now in our Maker Vault for young people and folks young at heart like myself to have a lot of fun with and play with and create results. You see them decked out for the holiday season, so that's a little, no spoilers, but watch for these guys in a window front in Huntington. Coming soon, we're going to have a little Christmas display that's going to feature these animatronic robots, and you get to see it here at 4th Avenue and 11th Street in Huntington. When you do, I want you to think of David, and I want you to think about the community that we have here, because it's a two-way street, right? I am so happy to help you through your membership with slicing or little hurdles you have in your project, because I learn a lot from that, right? So while we have expertise, we build your expertise, and then all of a sudden, we all start trading things back and forth. So we learn as much as, probably more than we're ever able to teach or share. But we try really hard to as we go along.
Absolutely. I recommend people coming down here. And then the other thing is, there's a few of us that come in and out that are more than willing just to help you out with things like, how does this work, and how do you do this, and how do you work the slicer, and I totally enjoy that. Like I love showing people the new, how to introduce them into it.
It really shows, and I'm going to give you like yet one more example of how David loves to share, and that is in my camps last year. I kind of elbowed you a little bit, and you expressed some interest in resin printing. And resin printing we see used for. You want to show some of these miniatures?
Like I'm obviously a Pokemon Go or Pokemon fan, so like there's the different ones here. Here's a Ninetales. These are solid, which is kind of cool. Which makes them a little less likely to break. However, if you still drop them, they're going to break at some point. But I mean, some of the great details for the Vulpix. These were, I had no idea they would come out this detailed and this good.
I want to recognize while you said you were surprised at the detail of some of these objects. The real skill is preparing the object for the print, and it's obviously something you've gotten quite good at.
I have, worked on it for...
Figuring out how to orient a model so that its supports don't wreck it in the process.
True.
Or wreck its quality or make it impossible to remove from those supports. Super challenging, really fun,
Absolutely.
So we have to jump to the piece de resistance today, because you have a proven track record and evidence of exploring new methods of making.
Sure.
And you looked over and saw our new Creality belt printer here in the vault, which we've used a couple of times.
A little bit.
We've gotten familiar enough with it to say, this is the first time this technology has really hit the consumer market. This is continuous printing. So this is printing prints of an undefined length. We could print something that's 150 feet long. We're not printing flat onto a bed and stacking up our flat plastic pictures. We're printing at 45 degrees, and we're pushing those pictures away from us on a belt, which is just like you find at the checkout at the supermarket, right? Moves a little slower than the supermarket belt.
And I would think in most cases people want to print multiple copies of something on the belt printer and they'll spit them out.
Right.
But
we hear people say 3D printing is small and 3D printing is slow, and while both of those can be true, it can also be true that 3D printing can be pretty big. This is a single print, and it is currently our record holder for the. You want to take this guy? It's currently our record holder for the Creality belt printer at 5 foot and 1/2 of 1 inch. I think you've thrown down the gauntlet, pun intended, because this is Thanos' sword.
This is
right?
Thanos'
This is
sword
Thanos'
from
sword.
The Marvel Avengers movie.
So the other neat thing is, I know we've displayed a couple cases that you put finishes and paints on. There's such a thing called post-processing, where you remove all the supports from things, whether they're resin prints or otherwise. This one was printed without any supports because this is half of Thanos' sword, and the other half is printing right now on the belt printer. So this will be adhered together. Some supports could be inserted so that it could be taken to conventions, taken out, shown off. And I know it's going to happen when someone sees it. Man, can I get me one?
Yes, someone's going to ask for one.
We're going to have to buy more belt printers, right, so that you can start manufacturing them here.
Mass produce these.
And to be honest with you, like, that's the tactic by which we speak to the fact that 3D printing can be slow at times. If it takes you 8 hours to make a print, and you've got orders rolling in, you're like, I can't fulfill my orders because they're weeks out into the future. Buy another printer.
Yeah.
Right?
And help double up your speed. Yeah.
There it is. You just cut your time in half. Every printer you buy, it just cuts that time down by that much more. So this is a way to look at, like, I'm on the Discord chat, I'm doing my thing, I'm at a con, someone saw my sword, and I've got a commitment to buy. And I can pile those up and say, my goodness, if I can fulfill these, I have, $1,300. I'm going to invest that $1,300 in another belt printer, right? Fulfill these orders and work to get more. And then you can achieve a spot where you can become a manufacturer if that's your passion. Right?
That's very true.
Yeah, if that's an area that you wanted to take it into. And so there are always new technologies out there that we want to look at and be aware of as well. You brought this up to me.
I did.
Is this a fellow maker?
It's someone I met on on another channel, and basically I thought this married with my 3D printing very well. But there's another new technology, obviously, called the palette, where the 3D printer will pull out the collar it's using and put another collar in and continue printing and pull out that collar and print the printer. So this person was building these he was calling these shelf labels for collectors, for people who collect the original gaming systems. And then you put this on your shelf and you'd have your Sega Saturn, all your cartridges and consoles or whatever that you CDs in this case, organized. And so he made these really pretty 3D printed labels. And so I thought, well, these actually go really well with what I do. Instead of making them as a label, I was putting them actually as a 3-dimensional raised logo on there, and I just loved how it ended up looking on the systems.
They're really astonishing and incredibly crisp.
Yeah.
When we talk about post-processing, a lot of people will paint things. Mm-hmm. This supersedes paint in my book.
Yes, 100%.
And I think it is just because, like, the colors that make up the portions of the logo are solid colored plastic.
Yes.
They're fused together using the palette slicer. We've kept our eye on that. We think it's been developed to a point where we'd love to add that technology to our Maker Vault very soon.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
It's so fun to try.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, there's so many other things you can use it for that you haven't thought about yet, that the palette's going to be really cool.
Oh my goodness. Well, I know you walked your way into this accidental entrepreneurship, and I wanted to kind of give you a plug to mention some maybe channels you spend time on, games you like to play, anything you'd like to mention?
I mean, like I said, I originally started just building these for friends, and I literally probably when I got to like building 65 of these for friends and friends of friends of friends, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just kept going. I was like, I actually come up from my wife. She's like, you could try this on Etsy. You can put your item on there and then, get a feel for it. I was like, okay, I kind of like that idea. So I do have an Etsy page that I've started, and I'm building these combined together. Like, the PlayStation needs a PlayStation joystick. And there are all these RetroPie retro gaming system out there, but they don't have that nostalgia feel of the case. And I have the ability to marry my understanding of the retro gaming along with the 3D printing. So I'll put those together. I'm like, I'm going to 3D print cases for all of my retro gaming Raspberry Pi devices, and that's just kind of where it went. I have a YouTube channel, and both my Etsy are both Retro Gaming Rewind, all one word.
Okay.
So people can look up, and the cool thing is, even if you don't want to buy one, you can go look at my YouTube channel and just say, hey, what am I building? What am I looking at? And I show like the details about what they do and how they play and how I married them all together and stuff. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
So what I really wanted to focus in this quote unquote plug was the entrepreneurship aspect, how this kind of becomes like most slippery slopes in life, like drag you to the bottom, right? This is like a slippery slope that just pulls you up to,
Yeah, this all started from just being a hobby, of just fascination of new technology from the Raspberry Pi 2. And that technology had me just fascinated, and I just exploded from there. And then, when the Maker Vault came here, I already loved or was very interested in 3D printing, but I didn't want to buy one either. I wanted to get an understanding of what they do and how they work, and coming here just got me going. That was the key to helping the craziness continue.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, David, I'm so excited you were able to join us today and show off all this cool stuff and some of what's next. You can check out your channel, but you don't want to forget this guy. So
Absolutely.
Make sure you take that with you, and I think that's a wrap.
I think so too.
Oh crap! Wow, I think it got you too.